All right. We're live, PKFL Week 10 preview, the Midseason podcast. We have not done this in a long time. It's been a crazy season so far. Topsy-turvy league, lots of trades, a little bit of controversy. We'll try to hit on that in short time. So why don't we start from the beginning? I think we did a couple of odds early in the season, but it's been a long time. Certainly a lot has changed. We can talk about some of the biggest surprises of the league so far. What are your thoughts about what's happened through 9 weeks?
Yeah, the biggest surprise is me being 1-8. I would say the second biggest surprise is YEM struggling as much as they have.
Yep.
And the third biggest surprise is how good Easy Money is.
Right.
And I'm not sure if they are that good or if they're just 7-2 somehow.
Yeah. And no Le'Veon Bell all season. Pretty impressive. And I would throw myself in there as well at 4-5. I was 4-2. I think people forget that I was 0-13. I've integrated myself as a mediocre team now, whereas I was a laughingstock last year. But I think one other thing that's good to me is I think there's parity in the league. There's kind of two parities. You were telling me earlier, how there is some separation. So there's not parity in that sense. But if you look at it as kind of like two different sets, basically 4 teams at the top and then 5 teams tied at 4-5. That's pretty crazy as a top 9 fighting for 6 playoff spots.
Yeah, that's great. That's going to keep it going. These last 4 weeks are going to be pretty fun to watch. I'm watching it from the outside. Maybe I could play spoiler against someone, who knows. But, these games are all going to matter down the stretch. I haven't looked at schedules. I don't know who maybe has an easier schedule than others. But it's definitely going to be some important weeks coming down the stretch. This week I play Minor, so he's probably going to get a win there. Then I play you, so that's going to help you. Then I play Schraub and Cody to finish it off. So those people might be in tune for another win automatically. So who else plays Stiff Arm? That's probably another play. So Jassel, 2 of his last 4 games were against me and Stiff Arm.
Same for me.
And same for you.
3. I play Satan, Wallers, JR, and Stiff Arm. So I have a fairly decent schedule, although not an easy task. I don't think Satan or JR rules are easy wins. And I still think that you or Stiff Arm could pull off a win. Stiff Arm did beat YEM, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think that's the thing about the league. I think even the Lamaka, who are the 3rd worst team at 3-6, still not a very fun team to play. They can pull out a win any week. They've got Deshaun Watson, Kerryon Johnson, Christian McCaffrey, Odell Beckham. That's a pretty scary team if everything goes right for them. And they're 3-6. You know what I mean? It's pretty.
Yeah, if they win 4 in a row, I think we said the last teams in were probably going to be 7-6 this year. So.
Maybe 6-7. Right now you have the Marist division, a 3-way tie at 4-5. It's not guaranteed that anybody's going to get to 7 wins within the Marist division. And then the wild card is also a 4-5 tie. You only have 4 teams above 500 right now. So I would be not surprised at all if you had a 6-7 playoff team.
Yeah, it's going to come down to those points. You're probably right. Trying to look at who has good points at a bad team. Looks like Berta or Stash that's why they're in the playoffs, because they have the most 6 more points than JR.
But even that is pretty close.
Points are. Not only are wins going to be important, but I think how many points you put up in those wins is going to probably determine who gets in.
Yeah,
like if you get a 90-89 win, it's going to help you to get the win, but it's not going to help you as much as the guy that wins 140-110.
No, I totally agree. So that'll be really fun to watch. The other fascinating thing about this season has been the number of trades that we've had. So, it might be worth kind of going back a little bit. Your team has been involved in the majority of the trades. Why don't we go back and kind of walk through what your thought process was when you realized that the season might be lost and when you thought it might be in your interest to start making deals?
Yeah. Well, I started off the season, I believe. So I think it was after week 4, I started obviously considering I probably need to do something. We talked in the preseason pod that my team's getting old. So I thought it was time for hopefully a rebuild. So I was hoping to use some veteran good talent to trade it off and to get younger and hopefully better at the same time. The first trade that I made was back in the beginning of October, where I traded Gronk to Mr. Minor. I traded Gronk and Crabtree for Ingram, Fuller, and his first round pick. So for me, I liked it, getting younger at tight end, getting a piece like Fuller and that first round pick. And for Mr. Minor, I mean, he's going for it this year. He wanted Gronkowski, and he also added Crabtree, who's a useful piece in the flex or on bye weeks.
And I guess it might be worth mentioning that you to fast forward a little bit, you then made another trade with Mr. Minor where he got his first back. So one way of thinking about the deal, the total deal, is you got Evan Ingram, AJ Green, Will Fuller, and you gave up Gronkowski and Devin Funchess, right? In essence, you guys have made a 3-for-2 during the course of the season.
Wow, I like it even better when you say it like that.
Well, so
for me.
So I thought you won both trades. And here's why. Gronk is obviously not Gronk, and I mean the price that was paid for him. I'm a little shocked actually. I mean, Will Fuller got hurt, but how did Will Fuller end up in that deal? I mean, I would have thought Ingram in the first would have gotten it done. Wasn't Will Fuller going to be a really valuable piece for Mr. Minor had he stayed healthy? It seemed a little odd. He wasn't hurt at the time of the deal, was he?
No, he was still playing. I mean, he missed a game from a hamstring, but he didn't have the knee that put him on the IR.
But he got off to an explosive start. I mean, the first 3 weeks of the year, he broke out basically. So I was a little surprised, Mr. Minor. That's an asset for win now. Evan Ingram has had a down year, but coming into the year, I think everyone loved Evan Ingram as a top 3 tight end. So it makes sense for you.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back again, that was like over a month ago, but I think I just pushed that. I mean, there were a lot of people coming asking about Gronk, and I'm like, if you want it, Ingram and the first is close, but I think you need to sweeten it. And we somehow got to, if I got Fuller, I'd give Crabtree back.
Yeah, I guess the Crabtree part of it. I mean, Crabtree's been fine, but I don't know. I was a little surprised. I mean, I understand Mr. Minor's going for it this year, but we have to remember it's still a dynasty league. So, if you're one of 4 teams, I don't think the move like guaranteed a title or anything. So I'm a little surprised he now going into next year, doesn't have AJ Green, doesn't have Evan Ingram, doesn't have Will Fuller. So I don't think it's egregious, but I think you objectively won both trades, to be honest. I don't think Michael Crabtree, Devin Funchess, I mean, those are the kind of guys I think you can get, not on the waiver wire, but, guys like that do emerge at wide receiver, right? The kind of middle tier guys, in my opinion. The AJ Green one was also a little bit surprising to me. I mean, we'll get to the Brown deal, but before the Brown deal, I actually thought the AJ Green deal was the most perplexing one of the season. I understand why you did it. How do you think that deal went down? AJ Green still has a ton of value in a dynasty league.
So yeah, I mean, I I saw the news that Green was going to miss time at least 2 weeks, maybe a month. And again, I think Mr. Minor wants to win. I mean, he's been in this league for a while. He hasn't won. I think he's kind of going all in to this year. So I kind of capitalized on that.
How is Devin Funchess going all in? I mean, it's an honest question. Like, what about Devin Funchess is any better than someone I could probably get for a second round pick or even playing the waivers? I mean, is Devin Funchess the
Well,
guy?
he got his first back too. I mean,
But that's not for this year. That's the thing. What is, it's, if you're playing for this year, why is the first round pick valuable? Getting a,
well, and it also happened that Funchess was a much better play for him last week. He was trying to get a win again last week.
so you, but yeah, see that to me, it doesn't make sense. You're giving up AJ Green to win 1 week.
Well, I don't think Funchess is garbage. I mean, he's young. He's
But
5 years younger than Green.
Compared to AJ Green, like, why is it AJ Green is not done because he's got hurt? I mean, he could in theory return this season. He's not done for the year. He didn't break his leg. I mean, it's not an ideal scenario.
Well, I mean, again, I can't speak for Mr. Miner. I just know how I spun it in my offer, and it ended up working out, I guess. But I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear your point.
Very odd. And then, you have AJ Green, and now you also have Le'Veon Bell going into next year. So you have another top 20 stud. That was a deal that you pulled off with easy money. Now, this deal I thought was more balanced. And I understand why Easy Money did it. He was able to pick up Patrick Lindsay, Jordan Howard, and Amari Cooper. It's not a bad haul. That's a go for it this year move, in my opinion, because I don't know if Lindsay is long term. Like, he might be a flash in the pan, but for this season with Freeman hurt, Lindsay's a legitimate play every single week. And, Howard proved last week he's not dead yet. Like, that's still a good running back. Running backs are hard to find. So for him to get two, I would call them top 15 running backs, not the worst thing in the world for Schwab. I think this deal personally is a lot better than the Green one. What are your thoughts? I totally understand why you did it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard of course I like the deal or I wouldn't have made the deal. But yeah, I was giving up a lot. I was surprised. There was a lot of, again, this league seems to hate it when other teams make deals that help their team, because there was pushback on when this trade went through, thinking that Schwab got robbed. And I was hesitant making this deal. I mean, those three guys are, to your point, you've mentioned it a few times, dynasty assets in my book. I mean, they're all young. I mean, Howard's young, Cooper's still 24, Lindsay's like 22. I mean, and they're talented. Cooper, yeah, I think he's only 24.
Oh my God. I mean, he's been like written off as if he's completely done. That's incredible that Cooper's only 24. So yeah, I mean, you look at that. I mean, I guess you having Le'Veon Bell, I think is frustrating for the league because, it's like a very easy rebuild for you. But I do think when people take a step back and look at it for Schwab, it's not a bad deal. Now, one thing that is a little concerning for him is that he actually has 5 running backs now that could start every week, which is fine, because one of them could get hurt. But again, if you're giving up Le'Veon Bell, you want to make sure, like, he could have nabbed Roethlisberger to upgrade over Russell Wilson. Like, I think there's other things he could have done, because if he goes into the playoffs and he's not starting, let's say 2 of those players, if Cooper and Lindsay are on the bench, then that to me is a tough sell. But if all 3 of those guys end up contributing, then I think that's obviously a much better deal for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you're saying that, because I suggested that move for him because I didn't want to give up all 3 of these guys, but he wanted the talent. He wanted, again, it's an all-in move again for this year also. But I mean, this is 3 talented pieces that he could maybe he could flip one of them for something else that he needs at this point.
Yeah, no, totally fair. So again, I think you've done quite well. Did you have any other deals? Oh, you had one with Jassol.
Yeah.
You know, um,
So that one we should have done first, I guess, because that one is where I got Cooper.
okay.
I traded away McCoy, Thompson, and Alfred Blue for Carson, Traquan Smith, Amari Cooper, and I believe a pick was involved. I should have had your little. This thing doesn't show me the picks if picks were involved, but
I thought no picks in that deal, but because Jassol made a deal where he gave up a pick for Devontae Adams, I think. I think this was a trade where you just did 3 for 3.
okay.
You know,
So yeah, I mean, this one again. This one was all about youth for me, trying to get younger, and it worked out well because I was able to flip Cooper in that other deal to get Bell. So again, Traquan Smith, really young, Carson young. I mean, I'm giving away McCoy and Thompson, who are both a little long in the tooth, as they say. So I was happy with the deal. I wasn't going to win this year anyway, and McCoy and Thompson I don't know what they're going to be next year. So I don't know what they are this year, to be honest with you. I don't think that they've played that much since I since I made that trade, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that one is interesting because I thought McCoy I like for next year. Honestly, I think he's still 31. I think running backs do tail off, but he's a Hall of Famer. I think you look at Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch, like there's plenty of examples of guys that kind of stay around. And I think this year he's just in the worst possible offense. I mean, literally the worst offense in NFL history. So I think for this year, I don't think it's a play. I was actually trying to acquire McCoy from you for next year to basically just roll the dice if I could get him for like a late first round pick. But you were able to get Chris Carson. And that's where I'm not sure what Jassol's thinking because Chris Carson to me is better than McCoy this year. So I don't know how that improved him. And maybe he thought Thompson was the ticket. Now, as it turned out, he then flipped Thompson just like you flipped Cooper. And he was able to turn Thompson and a couple other assets into Devontae Adams. So I guess
Thompson, Godwin, and Duke Johnson for Adams. I think he gave up his first.
Wow.
It was Thompson, Godwin, and Johnson, and at first, I believe, for Devontae Adams.
See, again, everyone criticized stiff arm. I think that's a good haul. I love Godwin, and Johnson now has a role, and he gets a first-round pick. And Thompson could easily be a flex player for the next 3 years in this PPR world. So that's not a bad haul for stiff arm. Like those are all quality players.
Yeah, I thought it was a good deal. I was a little pissed that I had made an offer to stiff arm as well that I thought was solid, but he went with Jassol's offer. I thought it was fair both ways around. I mean, now Jassol has, I mean, his lineup is ridiculous with Evans and Adams and everything else he has. So
yeah, Michael Thomas, he's got a great team.
Yeah, Michael Thomas, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's a little ridiculous.
No, Jassol probably has the best team, although the Nates are also very, very good. I think those two might be slightly ahead. You can't, but easy money and Mr. Minor are right there. So it's hard to separate. Couple other deals that did happen. Minor deal. But I thought a good one for JR where he got OJ Howard for Taylor Gabriel. That to me, JR won that deal. OJ Howard is emerging and is a top 4 to 5 fantasy tight ends for Dynasty right now.
Yeah, I like Howard. I mean, I like the deal I think Gabriel. I mean, he's been pretty solid this year. I think we talked about, I think stiff arm had multiple tight ends, so he probably needed to trade one of them. Did he get enough back? It's questionable. I mean, it's close. Because like you said, I think OJ Howard has top 5 tight end upside for the next 5 years. So I'm not sure I could say the same for Gabriel.
He's got Jared Cook, who's 31, and Kyle Rudolph, who's 28. So I'm not a big – I mean, he has Hayden Hurst, who has not emerged yet but could. I'm not a big believer that you have to trade someone because you have too many guys. I mean, I used to have 5 quarterbacks, and everyone kind of ragged on me, but 3 of those 5 quarterbacks were Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, and Jimmy Garoppolo. I dealt Goff, kept Mahomes, kept Garoppolo. One got hurt. I mean, one became a superstar. You just don't know what's going to happen. So you have to play the odds sometimes. One trade that I made was a good trade for both sides with the Nates, where I gave the Nates George Kittle, who is also a top 5 dynasty tight end right now. I got Marlon Mack and a first-round pick back for Kittle. That's about as fair a deal as I can see, right? I mean, I have Njoku. I love it, but I had to get a running back.
Yeah, I love the deal for you. I mean, again, I love it now in hindsight a little bit, seeing what Mac has been able to do. I don't know if I was a true believer the day you made the deal.
No.
But, I mean.
I had to get the first-round pick. I mean, we negotiated.
Yeah. But I'm saying I believe what I've seen the last few weeks, the deal has swung to your favor, especially as you just said, you have Njoku anyway, who's young and talented as well. So I think at the time of the deal, I'm like, and I'm like, I saw the first round pick, and I'm like, okay, that's fair. And then I think it's just swung in your favor since that trade, just with Mac seeming to be real.
Yeah, he seems to be a thing. And then I guess I don't know if there are any other trades before we get to the Brown trade.
I made a trade with Pat I got Hilton.
That was a big trade. You were able to get T.Y. Hilton, another fantasy asset. And again, Pat ended up with Brown, so he's fine. But at the time, I think he maybe sold Hilton short. Maybe he was a little too high on Eckler, as the Gordon handcuff, because his value has really tanked since you traded him.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been as used as much. You're definitely right. But again, and for me, I got not rid of. I mean, he's still an asset, Demaryius Thomas, who's getting older though. So
Very
I got.
old, yeah.
So I like Hilton, and I also believe, I also got his 2022nd in that trade as well.
Yeah. Pat has no picks left, but he has no picks. His first and second in 2019 and 20 are gone. So this is his team. I mean, there's not much he could do, but he's got a really good team.
So yeah, I think that's the transition into the Brown trade. So
Pat gets Antonio Brown initially, along with Deshaun Jackson, who has value as well. Gives up Hines, who is now basically a PPR back behind Mac. Jordy Nelson, the 2020 first round pick, which is a nice asset, and then a 2019 third round pick. When the deal was made, I was certainly surprised. I think a lot of other people were surprised. It's fantasy football, so I don't want to use the word angry because I hope no one is really getting that worked up over this. But to the extent that fantasy football dictates our lives, I think it was definitely a thought-provoking trade, let's say.
Yeah, my text blew up about 5 minutes after that trade went down, with angry different people sending texts like, what the hell's Rick thinking, this and that. And I
need to rehash it. I really love Rick, and look forward to hanging out soon. I'm just calling it objectively. It just didn't make sense. So what we've done today, we went back and forth. We weren't really sure. Vetoes are really for collusion, and this was not collusion. It was just a negotiated deal that went down. But then Rick decided he was going to leave the league, which, again, by the way, still encourage him to reconsider. He has a spot. Welcome. I'm not going to push too hard, but if that's where his heart is, I totally respect it. But once he decided to leave the league, I think there was then a rethinking of, okay, maybe there's a way to renegotiate the deal to make it fair for both sides, because Now we have to recruit a new owner potentially. And we were able to do that. Rick and Pat were great. They were cooperative. And we just adjusted the deal so that Rick kept Deshaun Jackson. And the only asset Pat got was Antonio Brown. And then we upgraded the 2019 third round pick to a second. So it ended up being high. And we added Marquise Goodwin, who at least has some value. So it was Hines, Goodwin, 2020 first, and a 2019 second for Brown. I think a lot more fair.
It's still actually not enough, but it is much fairer, and it's much. We weren't vetoing it, so Pat had to get Brown. Obviously, he had to give something up, but within reason. Rick did still negotiate that deal, so you can't go too far to crush YAM, and it's actually unprecedented. And I want to say on the podcast now that this is a one and done. Like, don't expect we're going to review every trade and analyze should the person make it or not. Each manager, owner has the ability to make the trades they want that think benefit their team. The only veto reason for me is collusion, as Josh said.
Yeah, and I never really considered veto. I mean, I posted this before Rick decided to leave the league. I said, look, the trade stands. I can't put it up for a vote. It doesn't meet the threshold of vetoing. And I guess it's not the only trade that I've thought was one-sided. To me, if you want to trade a superstar to rebuild, totally fair, right? I guess, a player that good, I would suggest just putting on the block like you did with Gronk and look at the haul you got with Gronk. I mean, just go to a different team and just see what you can get. I just never thought that, it just wasn't a package that you couldn't refuse. And
I could give some insight, and the timing was very strange because when I had talked to you, I have a lot of talent. I'm probably going to need to make some 2-for-1 trades to make sure I have room on my roster to do some drafting next year with the picks that I do have. Really on the Satan team page, and I was hitting on Brown, and I hit trade. And I was going through my roster to pick the players that I was going to send, and that trade came through.
Huh.
And literally, I don't know if I should say the 2 players that I was going to give because it might cause more people to get upset about it. But it was just weird timing that I was literally on his team page doing that when that trade came through. So you should definitely – I was more saying that just for the fact that you said put it on the block, because I would have made that offer and he would have had to choose at least between Pat's and mine. And to be honest with you, like I did with Gronk, you can kind of negotiate almost against the other offer that you have.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. So look, it is what it is. I don't want to belabor the point too much. I think everyone has kind of said their piece. I tried to broker what was fair for everyone. Not everyone's going to be happy, but at the end of the day, like you said, we're not looking to negotiate deals for everyone. But I do just want to give that PSA, like, please do not rush into deals. I thought there were some deals that you made that it's like, if you end up winning the championship next year, I don't want to hear anybody say, oh man, I can't believe Dave won again. I mean, think about what you're doing before you do it. You're helping other teams out. You got to consider what you're doing to the balance of the league. I think negotiating is a good thing, but anyway.
Well, I don't spin it like that, because when you negotiate, you should be negotiating for yourself. But again, to your point, get the most you can possibly get, especially if it's a stud. If it's a normal not run of the mill, but an average type guy, and you're trading because you have depth at running back and you need to get a wide receiver, that's one thing. But if you're 10 guy in every ranking that you see, you need to get as much as you can possibly get for that person. And the only way to really do that is to put the guy on the block and get people start sending you offers if they really want the player. If you put Le'Veon Bell on the block, if you put Antonio Brown on the block, you're going to get people to send you the best that they're willing to part with, and then you can choose between those offers.
Yeah, no, fair. But as it turns out, also I totally respect. I mean, I did it last year. I traded away some really good players to rebuild. It's not that hard to get back up there. It's a relatively shallow league. I mean, I think, if you get good draft picks, you can rebuild. So I have no issue. Antonio Brown, you want a first round pick? First round picks are valuable. I mean, Alvin Kamara was the 10th pick. Nick Chubb was the 9th pick. I mean, you can get a really good running back with a top 10 pick. Get a young running back like Hines, totally fine. Even a receiver like Goodwin. I mean, those are not bad pieces, but, is he shopping his other players? I guess he said now he's not making deals, but you have Emmanuel Sanders on the team. You have Drew Brees on the team. Like, if you're rebuilding and trading Brown, I think it's just not totally consistent, I suppose. And maybe that's too harsh, and it's not my place to, everyone's entitled to their own strategy. But I guess that's what I didn't get. He's 4-5. He's actually tied for a playoff spot. So if you're going to do a rebuild, maybe just do the rebuild. Now he's kind of done the rebuild, but he might actually still win some games. It'd be amazing if he made the playoffs still.
That is going to be fun. I'm actually, since I'm out of it, I'm actually to be honest with you.
Well, he's played, and I got to tell you, I am expecting to lose. I mean, I think he has good players up and down his roster that can break out. Doug Baldwin, couple of Green Bay running backs, Drew Brees. I mean, it's not a bad team. Greg Olsen, he's having a good night tonight. So, again, this is a talented team, and that was part of it. Was just, you want your strategy to be part of something bigger. Like, your moves all made sense relative to each other. Le'Veon Bell, AJ Green, Evan Ingram, Will Fuller. These guys have lower value this year, and when they start next year from scratch, you're going to have one of the top 3 or 4 teams because you're going to have these studs lined up. That makes sense to me as a strategy. So I would encourage everyone to think, what they're trying to do, because the more competitive teams we have, the better the league that we have, right? We want to see everyone do well.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right. Well, I think we beat that to death. And, I think anything else, I mean, we covered the trades. I mean, obviously we know there's 4 weeks left. We can certainly look at this week's matchups.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so Miner's playing me.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to win there, especially since I'm seeing I have -3 points somehow.
Yeah, that's the Panthers defense. They've given up 52 points to the Steelers, which is mind-boggling.
Oh my God. I haven't even looked over that. Holy shit.
Yeah. What's fascinating is I just saw a link that Le'Veon Bell is planning to report next week. First of all, it would be amazing if somehow Le'Veon Bell takes Connor's job and now Schwab is back down to having none of them. But I don't see how you bench Connor, but just crazy. But yeah, I think Mr. Miner is heavily, heavily favored in that particular game against you. Although I do have to point out that Devin Funchess has 2 points tonight. The last 3 weeks, he now has 12 points total. He's basically as good as Danny Amendola, who's on the waiver wire. So that is what that is. Satan against Sharks. I mentioned that game. Again, I am favored by the site, but Satan can easily get the win.
Actually, that's a pretty big projection for your Sharks there, 127.
Yeah, this is the first week.
Mahomes is ridiculous. Now you have 2 stud running backs.
Ridiculous. Yeah. I have a really good team. I really lucked into
your rebuild. I can't believe how quickly it happened, to be honest with you. But yeah, wow.
And again, I think I'm probably still only the 6th or 7th best team in the league, but I do like a lot of the pieces I have. Certainly Mahomes and Barkley was a stroke of luck to be able to get 2 studs like that basically come out of nowhere. But yeah, Marlon Mack helps. Nick Chubb helps. I didn't have any of those guys last year.
Ito Smith, you bastard! You beat me to him on the wire there.
I like Ito Smith. He's that Falcons team always has 2 running backs. So right now he's one of the 2. Some great.
And I believe Devontae Freeman is a free agent. So
I think Coleman is the one that's a free agent.
Oh, Coleman's the free agent. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, this year Smith will share with Coleman. Next year he'll share with Freeman. So a couple of great matchups this week. Easy money against Stash.
Stash, because he's got that 6th seed, but I mean, like we said, it's points. So not only does he need to win, he needs to put up a big number.
Exactly. And it's tough. We were talking about schedules. Stash being in the Syracuse division, see what their schedule is. Could be scary for them. They play easy money, then they play stiff arm next week, and they end with Minor and then Satan. So not terrible.
Yeah, he dodged what do you call it? Nate's.
Yep.
He doesn't have to face them a second time. So
he did dodge the Nates. And then speaking of the Nates, they're playing JR Rules. JR Rules very much alive. They have a high projection this week too. That team is really good.
Yeah, you're right.
Phil Rivers for them has been unbelievable. I mean, they've had Dak for a while, but Rivers this year is incredible. Elijah McGuire is back for them. And then their wide receivers are just ridiculous. Tyreek Hill, Smith-Schuster, Calvin Ridley, and Adam Thielen. Thielen happens to be on bye, but that is a great foursome.
Wow, I forgot about Thielen because he was down on the bench. Yeah, I mean, he's been the top wide receiver this year, so
by far.
And he's been playing without Cook for weeks.
And now Cook is back, and maybe will make a difference. So that's a team that could. I mean, they could win the title. I mean, honestly, they could win the Marist division. They could be the 6th seed. That team has talent. OJ Howard is playing terrifically as well. A lot of good pieces on that team.
But I do think it's a big week for those 4 and 5 teams. It's going to be tough to beat the Nates. I mean, the Nates, we talked about how solid they are. I think JR needs to squeak out a way. Like, he's got to pull this one. Like, these games are just really important.
They are.
Because what's his schedule? Do you have his schedule there?
Talking about JR?
Yeah.
Yes. So JR, Nate's this week, easy money.
Oof.
Then the Sharks, and they end the season with YEM.
Oof.
Yeah, not easy.
No, not easy at all. So yeah, this is a big week. I mean, every week's a big week, but
yeah, you really want that week for sure. And then don't forget about YEM at 4 and 5 playing against the Lamica, and the freaking Lamica have Christian going off tonight, and they're all of a sudden a contender.
Yeah, he's put up 34 points. My God. Even Boswell put up 11. The kicker.
Yeah. So I mean, look. You could have a situation if the Lamica beat YEM and the Nates beat JR Rules and Easy Money beats the Stash, then YEM, the Stash, JR, and the Lamica would all be 4 and 6. And then the loser of Satan Sharks would also be 4 and 6. And you would have one team at 5 and 5 in the 6 hole. That's crazy. Lamica are alive. Like, the Lamica can make a playoff run. I mean,
I forgot how good they're like. I mean, again, they don't have that much depth, but they're starters. Like, when they start their team, it's serious stuff.
And I mean, I don't know when the last bye week is, but I think we're starting to get to that point where most teams have had their byes. And so as guys get healthy and come off bye, you're starting to see kind of the full strength of some of these teams. So if you're not that deep, it's okay because you have access to all of your starters, and that's going to be interesting. Lamica could be very, very scary.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. I mean, parity is good. I mean, we have 2 bad teams this year, and then a lot of teams that could beat each other up every week.
And the thing about
I
this
think you
year,
might be right with the 6 and 7
oh,
getting
yeah,
in.
I'm almost guaranteeing it after analyzing it the way we did. I'm almost guaranteeing that. And I'll say this: you're going to be good next year, so that's one less team that's going to be bad. So we're getting very close to just having every team be competitive in this league.
Yeah, and that's what we're like you said. That's what we're kind of looking for. So that's good. It's a good thing.
No, it definitely is. All right. Well, hopefully, I know these are hard to do. Hopefully we can do one, before the regular season is up, but was definitely good to get kind of a reset. Any other topics that you want to hit?
No, just and you might want to check. Stiff Farm's going to need to, I think, pick up a tight end. No, he's got both. Oh, he has 2, and they're both on bye. So
They're both on bye.
see, can we bring that up as a point though?
What's
Because
that?
it's good. It happened to me, and it's a little annoying. Like I had to drop someone to pick up a tight end when Ingram was hurt or was on a bye. You have to start a tight end, but I mean, at this point, my roster spots are valuable,
Yeah, but
and
that's
winning
part of the
and
challenge.
winning isn't in my best interest.
Yes, but starting a
So
lineup is a requirement. I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, just because something is
might
hard,
have to drop a good player.
do
I
it.
mean,
That's part of the challenge. Managing a roster, you don't think that Major League Baseball teams, don't lose guys because they desperately wanted to have them on the 40-man roster, but just didn't have room for them, and some other team came and claimed them.
see, it's a valid point because he did it to himself. Because
Everyone has the
if he
same. Yeah.
if he didn't trade OJ Howard, if he traded one of these other tight ends, and he would still have a guy playing this week.
No, I don't feel bad at all. There's plenty of guys to drop. And yeah, I mean, it's part of the challenge of managing the roster. Like I have an interesting dilemma. I have Sam Darnold as my backup quarterback. And so I obviously like Darnold as a dynasty asset, although it gets worse by the week, I think. But I've got Patrick Mahomes on bye in week 12. So I can either start Darnold or go out and see if I can get a better quarterback on the waiver wire. So that's, you're trying to balance keeping the best dynasty roster, but also, having guys to start. I think that's just part of the challenge.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. I was just bringing it up because I saw that he didn't have a tight end, and I had to face that challenge. You say it like it's very easy, and I guess you did say the point that it's not that easy, but it's just tough when you're managing your roster. I love all the players on my team, and to have to drop one, it's just
No, it
painful.
sucks. It does, but that's, I mean, we have 20 players, so I mean, you kind of have to maneuver it. Make a 2-for-1 trade, do something like that. But understand the challenges. All right, well, good luck to you. I suppose that means losing for you. And good luck to everyone else who is competing. It was good catching up, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
All right, Josh, thanks for making this happen.
All right, have a good one. Take care.